All right, welcome everyone. Thank you all so much. The very beginning moments of the November Freedom Thinking for the Love of Life Retreat 2023. We're doing this over 3 days. We're starting at 3 p.m. UK time. Jerry, heads up, man. Got it. He got it figured, did the lad? He got it figured. No, much appreciated. And he was first in. No detention for Jerry. No, thanks everyone. We're starting at 3 p.m. each day, and we'll be going on till 9:30 tonight. There will be a break in the middle, a couple of breaks dotted in and out. We got a guest speaker this evening, Dr. Dickon Bettinger, and we also have Christine Heath and Aaron Turner speaking as well over the next couple of days as well, which we're really excited by. You don't see the other half. She is currently with Lucia. We are working with the forces of nature at the moment, and Lucia has her own time frame as to when she wants to do things, and we're having to work around that. She will be, I'm sure, making an appearance pretty soon. Jen will be coming to join us, and when Jen isn't on here, when she isn't sat next to me, she will be joining via Zoom link. She'll be somewhere else in the house. She'll be dotted around. She'll be doing a thing. She'll be looking after Lucy. She'll be listening in, and she will be contributing. So you won't just have to put up with me. I promise. I promise. So yeah. All right. I'm guessing pretty much everybody here has come across the principles before. Is there anything else I need to say? Any housekeeping? Oh yeah, this is a via donation event. So what do we mean by that? Well, via donation, what we mean by that is this is a donation event. We're not charging as such for this. People can come and just listen. Many people just come and listen, and some people give us a donation for our work. It helps keep Jenny and I going in our work. We do a lot of work via donation. We like to trust humanity. We like to trust the kindness of people. And on the whole, we've never been let down. Hang on. Yeah, text from Jenny. Lucia is feeding. She'll come when she can. Thank you. That's just reminding me to turn my phone off. Cool. Oh, she's in. Yeah, so via donation, we mean anybody who can donate. We just say, make a donation to Freedom Thinking. There's no limit, there's no minimum. We also started doing this via donation during lockdown at a time when we knew that things were very hard for people, and we know things are still very hard for some people. And so for people who can't donate, you don't get away scot-free. What we ask is, we ask that you pay it forward with a bit of kindness. So if you receive something from these 3 days, what we ask is, and you can't afford to make a donation to Jenny and I, what we ask is you pay it forward with kindness. Perhaps there's somebody who needs some help in your neighborhood. Perhaps there's somebody who needs the garden sorting out, but you know that they're incapable of doing it because of some physical ailment or something like that. Perhaps you go and give them a few hours helping them out. I don't know, perhaps you make some food for some homeless people and take them some good food or something like that. I don't know, use your imagination. But we ask that you pay it forward with kindness if you can't afford to make a donation. And we love hearing from people what people have done. We ask people not to go a little bit above just giving somebody homeless a cup of coffee. We ask people to really kind of come from their hearts. Come from their hearts and connect with the other person who they're helping. So yeah, that's what this Freedom Thinking via donation means. Hope that's clear as muck. If anybody wants to make a donation, in the chat right at the top, I've put the donation details, PayPal and our bank account details with Jenny's PIN number there as well. So yeah, great, cool. Natalie, welcome. Thank you so much for keeping us organized, by the way, and letting us know that there was a a number code thing. Wasn't supposed to be there. So thank you so much for keeping on top of us. We much appreciate that. So here she comes, just in the nick of time, just as about to make a start. Oh, Lucia looks wide awake and ready to go. Everybody, this is Lucia. Just woken up. You all right, Babs? Too early to tell? Too early to tell. It's just about to make a start. Do you want to introduce yourself?
Have you introduced yourself?
No.
You go first.
All right. Well, my name's Dave Elleray. Thank you so much for joining us. So I've been around the principles since 2013. And the reason why 10 years later I'm still talking about them is because of the effect that they had on my life. How coming across the principles and Sid Banks changed my life immeasurably. I knew from the moment that I discovered what I wanted to do in my life, and that was to help people. I come from the background. Paul's already called himself a user when you look on his Zoom. Bloody hell, I thought those days were behind you, lad. But anyway, I, like Paul, was a bit of a user in more ways than one. I've been a drug user, alcohol user, a service user, which is what they call people who spend time in the system of psychiatry, psychology, and other psychiatric services. They call us service users. I've been a service user up until I came across Sid in 2013, when I got to have an awakening, and it changed my life. I've spent time in prison. Sounds like my CV. The violence back in the day. So I haven't always had the easiest of lives. A lot of my life was spent with depression and anxiety and worry and just the usual crap that people go through. But I found the way through. I don't say out, through. Where are you going, Baba?
I was at Drowsville.
I think I'll say that. I found my way through. And in discovering my way through, I found freedom. I found love. I found connection. I found understanding. And this changed my life. So since 2013, I've had the privilege of traveling to many parts of the world, most of it with Jen, working with all different kinds of demographics of people and getting to share this message. And one of the beautiful things I've noticed about this message is no matter where we've shared it, whether it be English-speaking people or even speaking through translators, we've seen change, and we've seen people wake up, and we've seen people come out of the suffering, and we've seen people come out of the illusion of life to discover the truth about life and start to unravel it within themselves and start to find their own freedom. To me, there is no greater job. Believe me, I've questioned it recently. I've questioned it very, very much recently, which has been a beautiful thing for me. A few weeks ago, I wasn't sure where I was going to go with all of this. But it left me time to get reflective on what do I truly want to do in my life. And the only thing that I come back to is, I just want to do this work. I just want to help people. I just want to help people wake up. I want to help mankind. I want to help individuals. I want to help myself. I want to help my family. I want to help this world become a more beautiful place. And the only way that we can do this is when we start to become aware of the nature of mind. Through that, we start to become brilliant, Babs. Through that, we start to become aware of why people behave like they behave, why we behave like we behave, why we feel like we feel, why we experience what we experience. And we also start to become aware of a far greater point, a far deeper point about life, the magic of life. So hopefully over this next 3 days, people will discover more magic, will discover more peace, will discover more freedom in a world that appears to be going mad. Hopefully we can buck the trend. So I send everyone love over this next 3 days, and I look forward to seeing everybody. And I'm going to pass you over to Jen now. I'm going to shut up. I don't know how long we've actually got Jen for, so.
Hello, thank you for joining us.
So, no, sorry. Is our sound all right? Can everybody hear Jen all right? Cool.
Yeah, no, it's a funny time. This is the first time I've ever started at 3 p.m, but I was hoping it would allow people in America to as well. So a lot of people are going to be listening to the recordings. And yeah, it's a sunny day here, so a lot of people have said we will listen to the recordings, but the sun's out, so we're out and about. So thank you for being here from the beginning. It's really nice. I think we've said if we ever do one of these things and there's no one there, we'll still go ahead and record it and put the recordings out, but it's so much nicer when you've actually got faces to look at. So thank you for being with us. I came across the 3 principles in 2005. Dr. Roger Mills came over to the UK to run something that he called a core course, and I was completely blindsided by it. I had no idea what I was going to. I went along with my sister, and I didn't think change was possible for me, and I felt there was broken people and bad people, and that few days that I spent with Dr. Roger Mills kind of completely blew my mind. I realized that I wasn't broken, that there wasn't such a thing as a broken being. I fell out of anxiety, depression, eating disorders that had plagued me for 10 years. And I just kind of fell into this really peaceful space. And I think over the last 18 years, regardless of what mood I've been in, like I've got anxious, I've got shy again, I felt worried, I felt all the emotions, but this understanding has allowed me to know, like I know that underneath all of that noise, underneath all of that kind of burden is this beautiful space, and it never leaves us, because it's who we are, it's who we all are, it's where we are not just connected, but where we are part of that same universal mind, that same universal energy. And I think initially, after the first few days of learning about this, and I had that big shift, I thought somehow I'd learned something that would allow me to never have to experience a bad mood or be judgmental or worry again. But it's weird. I feel like what it actually gave me was the ability to have all of those experiences without the worry about them. And I feel like there's a knowing that I've kind of carried with me since then, that then when I'm with other people and I see them getting caught up, I don't worry about them in the same way either. So it feels like the greatest gift I got given at the age of 23 to kind of walk through life with this understanding. Dave, sorry, she's just got an orange pen just put on the carpet. Lucia learned to take the lids off pens, so pens aren't that good as a game anymore.
I think
you realise
neither's taking them off her.
No, we did try and sellotape them on, but that really caused a lot of frustration last time, so we've not done that this time.
You just draw on there, Bella. Just draw on there, only on there.
What I loved about the way that Roger presented was that he said, it sounds really strange, but don't worry too much about listening to my words. You don't have to take notes. This isn't an intellectual thing. Just listen like you're listening to music. And it was quite a strange thing. Like, I had no idea what I was at, and to be told, don't listen to my words, and there's someone there presenting using words. But over the few days, I saw what he meant. Like, I don't remember so much of what was said, but I remember this deep feeling that I fell into. And I remember that we were being pointed towards something that was true for everyone. So I ask people, just be open-minded. You don't have to believe anything we say. We're going to allow time for questions. We want people to go away and kind of see from their own experience, is this true for you? And I think that's why we love doing it over a few days, because you kind of maybe sit and listen, and then you go away and you have a break and something might come to mind, or you might notice something. And in lots of ways, that's what this is about. You start to notice the nature of your own mind, the nature of mind, the nature of it all. So this time is about you guys. We want to be kind of led by you, and we want it to be relevant. So we thought it would be nice if people have things that they'd love to hear about. If there's things they'd like to get from the few days, we'd love just to put it on the board. Just not, we could go around the group, or if you want to put it in the chat, if you prefer not to speak, that's fine. But we'd love to know, what is it people are trying to get from this? What they'd like to hear more about? Or are you just here for a top up because maybe you've been around it before? Is anyone brand new and this is their first kind of event? We really would love to hear from you guys.
Jerry, you were first here, and I feel like you should kick it off if that's all right. Jerry, is there anything that you would like to get from these 3 days? Is there anything? Why are you here? What is it what is it that you're here for?
Well, I've been around. I've listened to Dick, and Dickens actually been in a group of ours a couple of times. So, and I just read his book, so I enjoy that. The main part is about listening. You know, they always tell you to listen deep and all that. That's the problem I have, is the listening part, more or less.
Jerry, thanks so much. And I think that is a beautiful place we'll start. Thank you, Jerry. Kendra, what are you doing here?
Sorry, say that again.
Is there anything you're wanting to get from these 3 days?
Nothing specific comes to mind except just maybe a reminder, because I've sort of been on and off joining your groups for a while, and it's made it quite a big change in my life, but I forget to apply it daily. And sometimes it's nice just to have a reminder.
All right, cool. Big Mac. Cheers, Kendra.
I need to get some consistency. I'm looking too much at like negatives, and I'm really buying into them again. Drugs haven't came back into my life, so I'm really positive and proud of that. But do you know what? I think if I could have afforded it, I'm in a real lull of work for the last like 6 months. I think if I could have afforded it, I probably would have. If I'm honest, I think I would have went down that path again. And then the thing that really, like, pardon my language here, everyone, like, boils me piss, is I know better. I really know better, and it's like if I had a boxing glove, I'd happily like hit myself, and like there's like a reminder of like, come on, like, what are you doing? Like, you're buying into all this egotistical shit, and you're really like, I'm really like drinking from that fountain. I'm really like buying into it. And I've seen loads of your group things, the community groups, and I'm like, I need to go on, I need to like speak to someone, I need to hear other people. And like even today, I was like, oh God, I'm not going to go on because like I'm feeling really shit. And then I come on and everything disappears. I see faces that I've seen before. I hear you guys, and everything melts away. It's quite frustrating.
Oh, it's terrible.
Your first group, I think, that you did in the lockdown was the one that like pretty much helped me save my life. And now I'm nothing like that person anymore. Well, I couldn't even speak to you back then. But I feel I've got a lot of the knowledge, but I'm not putting things into practice. Whether it be more of a reminder I need, or, you know what, maybe I'm just being really lazy with myself, and I'm allowing myself to go into these like old ways too easy, these old thoughts, these old patterns.
I think when I listen to all that, mate, I think basically what you're looking for is to cheer the fuck up, isn't it?
Yeah.
I think that's what you're looking for, my friends. See if we can help you with that.
Maybe. Hi, Jen.
All right, you clear it? Is that all right? Does that kind of
Yeah.
sum it up?
Yeah. I've like, to know the answers and to still allowing yourself to like go down the rabbit hole even further. Oh, I'll dig a bit deeper. That's going to cheer us up.
Cool. Well, if it cheers you up, Lucy is just, I don't know if you could hear that on the microphone, but she just let out a massive fart. So apologies about that. All right. Thanks, Paul. Helen, you and you lot, is there anything you're wanting to get from this? I know you're miles away from your microphone right now. And you're muted.
Sorry.
That's all right.
For me, it's a top up, really, just to sort of keep my hand in as such. But also sort of probably if you could touch on sort of living or being with somebody who's in a particularly low mood, or in a how you sort of deal with that on a daily basis.
Cool. Thank you, love.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think that's a good one for a lot of people. Thank you, Helen. Love. Callum. No, you're muted, mate.
Sorry. Got me?
Yep.
Yeah. I think for me, it's kind of, I've always kind of been interested in it, because obviously my mum Donna was sort of, you know, came about principles through that. And it's always been in the background. And what I've noticed is that I feel like I have a lot of overthinking, and I'm quite a sensitive person. So I get affected by other people's behaviour, if that makes sense. So I kind of look for a bit more of peace of mind and calmness, if that makes sense. So I was just sort of interested, really, sort of getting to know the understanding a bit more. And like I said, it's always sort of been around, and I just that's sort of what I was sort of looking at, really. Yeah.
Cool. Thank you, mate. So I've got from that, I got peace of mind.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And just, I think for me, it was overthinking a lot, and then I get worked up.
All right.
And then you sort of lose yourself a bit in your thinking, if that makes sense. And I seem to have a habit of that. So.
Oh, I don't.
Yeah. But I suppose not getting so much lost in yourself, if that makes sense. Yeah.
All right. Cool. I'm sure we can have a conversation around that. I'm sure of that. Sure we can bring that in somehow. Thanks,
Yeah.
Hal.
All right.
Thank you, buddy. Miss Stein, how are you?
Yeah, hi, Jen and Dave. I'm good. It was lovely spending time with both your parents in Spain last week. That was really great. I'm here. Oh, hello. Lovely to see you again. Oh, lovely. Brilliant. Yeah, I'm well, first of all, the reason I'm here is this is my tribe. And anywhere I get nourishment from hearing about this understanding. Secondly, I've just spent 5 days in A&E with my mother, who unfortunately was rushed into hospital on Saturday, and she's joining us tonight, by the way. She's so resilient. She's 96, my mum, and she caught COVID, funnily enough, and but had a heart problem as a result of it. Anyway, I managed to get her out. It was like trying to get out Alcatraz, and she's back home. yesterday. She came back the day before yesterday, and she's really looking forward to it, especially to hear Dickin, who's her love of her life. And she's going to join us today. So I'm here because I just love being here. And if anybody's here new that's learning about this whole understanding, I don't even know what to call it, it transforms life beyond anything you could imagine. It's just incredible. And I don't think I'd be able to cope with my life. I've got a 96-year-old and a 16-year-old living with me. So coping with that, if I didn't have this, I don't know what I would have. Right, question to put on the board. Now, this is a bit strange. I am in touch with a lot of people in the community, and I don't understand. There's somebody who Jenny knows really well, who seems to be opposing the 3 principles, and I'm trying to understand why someone would put it down in a way, or think differently about it in a way. And I'm trying to get my head around it, which probably doesn't help. So it's like, I don't know what I'm asking, but it's like coming to an understanding. It's like, I know this isn't the only way, and I know there are many paths to experience love and life. But in order to go and experience those paths, it doesn't have to be demeaning to another path. Do you understand what I'm saying? Yeah. Okay. That would be one of my questions that come up, and that's not, that's just maybe come up later on, or I might just not even need to understand it by listening to you. Like, that will probably answer my questions anyway.
No, I think it's something that I think it does need addressing.
Okay, thank you. Yeah.
And I wouldn't say there are many ways. I would say there's only one way.
Okay.
There's only one way. Now, there's many descriptions of that one way.
Yeah, many messengers pointing to it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But there is only one way. There is only one way. And so that's kind of when we start to see that, that's when so much of the confusion starts to get cleared up. Because once you find a direction to walk in, once you start to discover something that's fundamental and true and applicable to all, you found, some people would call it your North Star, your absolute guidance.
Yeah, totally.
You're on the path. Some people would say you're on the path.
Yeah.
And there is only one path. There is only one way that humanity wakes up. There is only one means by which reality is born. There is only one way that we create change in our lives. There is only one way that we experience. So people do place this argument. There is lots of ways of waking up. No, there's only one. There's only one.
I'm interested to hear more about that one.
Yeah.
Okay.
There's only one, and I'm not saying we have the secret. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is there's only one way to wake up. But hopefully, if people hear deep enough, and it comes back to Jerry's point, then people will start to make sense of what that actually means and start to understand that really there's only one direction to look in. Clears up a plethora of problems.
Great.
Or what appears to be problems.
I
don't know, what should we put?
I don't know. the one way. There's only one way.
What's the truth?
Yeah, exactly.
That'll be a reminder anyway.
Yeah, it'll be a good reminder.
Yeah,
I'm gonna put body next to it just to kind of just to remind me.
Yeah. Okay.
Because in the way I listen to that, there's a massive misunderstanding, a fundamental misunderstanding.
Okay, I'd be very happy to listen about it, because I try to get my head around it and I can't.
Yeah, it's so simple, but it's misunderstood.
Okay, great.
By certain people.
Yeah. Okay.
I send those people so much love. I really, really do. And I think their contribution to this conversation is invaluable. So I thank them for it, because it helps us to kind of bring the point deeper. So I'm so thankful that these
Wonderful.
people are actually bringing this conversation to the board. I'm
Great.
so grateful.
Excellent. Good.
Thanks, Nat.
Just to let you know, I'm going to pop out to a Christmas parade with Maisie, but I will be back.
Oh, send her our love.
I will. She'll be here later.
Give her a hug from us.
Okay.
Andy, monsieur, thank you so much for your donation. God bless, man. That was so kind.
You're very welcome. Thank you.
Thank you so much. This second time we've met you now, mate. So, Andy, how can we be of assistance?
I think you've just covered it, really. So 7 or 8 years ago, I found the principles. I lived through it. It was amazing. And then I went off on those other paths and got completely and utterly confused. So I'm just here to re-ground myself in the basics of the principles, really, and get some insight.
Reground. You know, we all need to do that. We all need to do that. Wonderful. Cool. Thanks, Andy, lad. Natasha, is it Natasha? Please, can you tell me how you say your name? Just hold on 1 second. I'm just going to stop Lucia from drawing all over everything. 1 sec.
We'll come back to Natasha, and we'll just quickly go. Joseph, your camera's just come on, and you've just jumped ahead in the queue. So, what would you like to get from this next few days? And thanks for joining. It looks like you're out on a beautiful walk.
Sorry, I'm just present. I'm just here. Perfect timing. Saturday, nothing to do. So I'm just here with you guys.
Cool. Thank you. It's nice to see you.
No worries, you too.
Vibhuti. Is there anything you're wanting to get from this? You put it in the chat if you want, if you wish. Hang on, let me read this. I've been listening to you guys, you, Dave, Jenny, Dickon and Aaron, since a few years now, and I just did not want to miss this chance to listen to you online. Anything which gives me, where's that got? Anything which gives me a glimpse about the energy of life. All right, the 3 principles understanding will be great. Wonderful, love. I love that. That's what this conversation is all about. Gaining deeper understanding about the energy, the nature of life.
Natasha said she is out on a walk, but she likes the feeling.
Cool.
We can talk a bit more about that feeling.
Yeah.
Have you finished filling up your petrol?
I think Em left a message last, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, she said to come. She should come last.
I know I can
Yeah, I'm here. I'm here.
Em.
Can you hear?
Yeah, it's probably easier you say.
Hi everyone. Yeah, mine sort of as I say it, it's almost I've answered it, so it's a bit crap. You know, it's really about there's certain things that I do and behave certain ways that I know I'm in the past. I'm not present. Do you know what I mean? And it's old ways. and I know they creep up, and I don't like it. It's like, but I feel at times I have to fit in. There's certain people in my life that I love dearly, and I want them in my life, and it's just that acceptance. I know it's that acceptance. I want to sort of really gain a deep insight on the acceptance of myself, I think, because I just feel that I'm living and loving the life I'm leading or creating, but I get drawn back. I don't know. I can't explain it. I just feel I get drawn back to old ways to fit in life. Does that make any sense or not?
Yep. And that's one of the most beautiful things I've heard you say. Nice one, Em. That's a beautiful direction to orientate yourself in. Beautiful. That's massive. What you've said there, what you've spoken to me about, what you've spoken to us about there. That's massive.
Right, we are going to go and sit in the other room. I'm going to be on the headphones. I'm already logged in.
Would you find me the speaker?
And I'll chip in if I can.
Yeah, can you find me the speaker as well?
Yep.
Bowl.
Say bye-bye, Lucia. You're getting a bit more vocal these days.
She's waking up.
Last time we did this, she was a tiny baby and she just stayed asleep pretty much the whole time. And
yeah, she's like a fly that's woken up and it's frosty, and she's spent like half an hour sat in the sun, and she's just warming up now.
Before you draw on.
All right. Well, I'm sorry you just stuck with me now. Hell, at least you got somebody good looking to look at. Please, red bush, please. Yeah, I always say I'm the beauty, Jenny's the brains. But anyway, so what's that? I was going to shut the door. As people spend time with us, one of the things that people really, I feel, get a sense of is just our professionalness. Like we pride ourselves in how slick, clean, pristine, professional we are. So hopefully that shines through over this next few days. And yeah, right, everyone. I haven't got
that's what we love about you, mate. You know, that's what we love about you. It's all just in the moment what goes. That's what I like.
Oh, it's just you just got to put up with us. We have lives, do you know what I mean? And we're not showy people. We're just people. We're not really interested in being showy people. We just want to be ourselves, and people who like that will come to us, and people who don't won't. And we only want to be with those. Well, I don't say we only want to be. That's a terrible thing to say. We will resonate with people who resonate with this, you know. And I always say, I'm not everybody's cup of tea. You know, perhaps it's my dialect, you know, that might upset people. I swear a lot. I'm not crystal clean. I'm not sparkly. I'm just me, and I'm just going to be me. David just entered the waiting room. There he is. And so, yeah, this is what we hope for other people. You know, I think Em summed it up. She wants to find acceptance of self. You know, when people start finding acceptance of themselves, so many of their problems clear it up. And that's what I found in 2013. I realized, you know what, Dave, you don't need to be a somebody. You don't need to be this. You don't need to be that. You don't need to show off. You don't need to pretend to be somebody you're not in order to please other people. You don't need to pretend to be somebody you're not in order to make yourself happy. In fact, I'm all right as I am. I was born all right as I am. I'm divinely perfect, just like everybody else on the planet. I'm whole. And I realized when I'm just myself, I attract those people that want to be with me. And when I'm not myself, I attract the people who perhaps I don't resonate with. I think it's down the van, to be honest. Excellent. So starting to find peace and acceptance for ourselves is one of the most important things we can do as a human being in this lifetime. We hope over this next few days that people will start to discover more of that. You are not the only person on the planet that suffers from that, love. But more often than not, that is the root cause of suffering. This idea of I'm not good enough. I'm not good enough. One of the greatest fallacies we tell ourselves. One of the greatest fallacies we believe. It's a belief. It's not a fact. All right. I want to start with Jerry's thing on the board, listening. I also want to talk a little bit about listening. Coming across this was one of my greatest gifts when it came to listening. And over the years, picking up hints and tips about listening. First ever thing I went to do with 3 principles was Jack Pransky. Got to sit down with Jack one time and he spoke about deep listening. He introduced me to deep listening. I don't think it's a massive issue, to be honest. I think it's a very simple thing, but it's only simple once you become aware of it. I think it's actually one of the most beautiful points, most beautiful directions we can be pointed in as individuals, is this notion of our capacity to actually listen. You know, listening and hearing are very different things. You can listen through prejudice. You can listen through judgment. But if you hear, neither are present. So what we're hoping, there was a saying that Jesus Christ said over and over again, for those who have ears to hear, let them hear. This conversation doesn't resonate with everybody because they're not ready to hear. Everybody on this screen here is ready to hear. Otherwise they wouldn't be here. You could not possibly be here if you weren't in a position in your life where you're ready to step up and shift consciousness. You couldn't be. More often than not, that comes about through suffering. One of our friends, believe it or not, one of our great friends in this lifetime is suffering. It helps us grow. It can be quite a gift. You won't think that at the time. Guaranteed. I never have. But I am so grateful to all the suffering that came my way during my life. Thank you, suffering. Thank you, pain. When we're listening, oh, here we go.
Thanks.
Oh, well done, love. You're stunning. And up to the end. One of the things that I never even contemplated was listening. It's not something that we're taught in school. But it was something that, when I listened to Jack, made an awful lot of sense, and I realized just what a shit listener I have been in my lifetime. I used to pride myself as a great listener. I could generally remember what people had said. And I generally had an awful lot of advice to dish out about it. It's very easy for me to get caught up in the narrative. Very, very easy for me to, thank you, Mum, to get caught up in the story that was being presented. And what Jack introduced me to was, this was 2013, 2014, I can't remember now. It was early on in my journey of the 3 principles. Was this notion, very simple notion, what I heard, this is what I heard, a very simple notion. that if I am thinking while somebody is speaking, if I have a dialogue going on in my head, I'm not listening. I'm sure that already on this call, you've been sat there and things have popped into your head. Oh, bugger, what time is it? What time is it? Oh, when's he going to get started? I don't know. But those thoughts are so much louder than the words that are being spoken, even though they have no audible decibel. They are immeasurable by a microphone. My voice is measurable by a microphone. I'm probably talking now at what, 30, 40 decibels? And our thoughts are louder. So one of the things that kind of started to make sense when I was listening was, if somebody's talking and I'm thinking away to myself, I'm not listening to what individual says. That was very simple. Very self-explanatory and very obvious. And secondly, what I noticed was, as I listened to people with an open mind, a connection was born. A connection to the individual whereby when you sit down and listen, an individual can present in X as a scenario, as a problem. I have this problem, Dave. I have this problem, Dave. As you listen without prejudice, without judgment, without thinking, more often than not, you start to receive a feeling. You start to receive a feeling and understanding of that individual at a deeper level, whereby they may present in this as a problem, but you start to see, no, you think that's the problem, but may I suggest this? You start to get more wise thought quietly just coming into the picture. And as a facilitator, as somebody who's decided he wants to help humanity and help people, that's a really, really, really useful thing when it comes to helping people. You can start to hear, when you start to listen without prejudice, when you start to listen with an open mind. Oh, little ego. Oh, well, little egos, man, they like to think they know everything. They want to compare what's being said now to what I already know. This has to line up with what I already know. Becoming aware of that. Understanding in true reality, we actually don't know anything. We simply believe. We'll go into more about that over the 3 days. But our ability to listen. If somebody comes to me and they present this, Dave, I've got this story about my life and I want to tell you about it, and how quick I am to line it up with mine, compare it to my own and go, do you know what? I know what you're talking about. Yeah, I had the same kind of experience. Did I? Or did I just create a story in my head that I know what this individual is talking about? Because if I've done that, I've stopped listening to what they're saying. I've already made up my mind what they're saying. So starting to come at this from a different point of view, from a more broad-minded point of view, from a space of not knowing, from a place of truly listening. Many people listen, but not everybody hears. And I think that will probably sum up a lot of what you were talking about. People hear to whatever depth they hear. There's no judgment upon that. There's no judgment. It's not making an individual right or wrong. But as we start to learn to listen, and learning to listen is starting to clear our mind of prejudice as we listen to people, just quietening our mind and just listening. More often than not, a feeling emerges That feeling is connection. I tell you what, that connection feeling will speak louder than 1,000,000 words. It will carry more information than 1,000,000,000,000 words. That's why Sid said, look for the feeling, because that's where the knowledge is. If we're listening with our intellect, we're going to get an intellectual answer. It will have a small amount of power if we're listening with our hearts. If we're listening with an open mind, that's where the traction is. That's where we take hold. That's where we can truly help people, and that's where we can truly help ourselves.
I'm just going to quickly say something. That's right.
Jump in.
She's busy throwing apples with Grandad at the
Oh,
moment
fantastic.
because she thinks they're balls. Yeah, it's just because you were talking about listening, it just really came to mind that one of the things I really felt from Roger as a teacher was he spoke about you listen and you listen and you listen, and it's so often when we listen to people, we listen to their words, we listen to what they're saying, but he was saying that behind what people are saying, if you listen, they'll be coming from somewhere. They'll either be misunderstanding or there'll be a feeling, and I didn't really understand what he meant at the time, but I've noticed I've noticed that since being around this, I don't know, I'm with someone and they're telling me all the content of their mind, and before kind of coming across this, I found it very easy to get very caught up in people's content, you know, and some of the times when I'm working with people, we're working with people, the stuff that they're telling us is pretty heavy, and there's a lot that you could get caught up with. But so often, if you can just keep listening and listening, what pops to mind to say to that person has got nothing to do necessarily with the content. And one of the things I really heard in what Sid shared was that it's never going to be in the words, it's never going to be in the content. And that's why I love this understanding, because it feels like it addresses anything that someone brings to you, because really it all comes and stems from that same one misunderstanding. And when you start to listen to someone deeply, quite often they start clearing up that misunderstanding for themselves, or you just get to point to something for them. And I think the other thing that I've really noticed is that you start really listening to yourself. You get really attuned to what is chatter in my mind, what is the noise, what's the habitual thought, and what is it when I really listen. And it's very different, and I think you have to get a feel for that. And I think that's what happens over the years with being around this, is you get a feel from, is this kind of ego chatter, habitual thoughts, or is this coming from a deeper place? And you can't give someone that experience. You have to get a sense of that for yourself. And I think you become more and more discerning. So I can still have some of the same content that I've had from before I came across this, but the way I listen to it is very different. And I think that's the thing that's so incredible about this understanding, is it keeps giving you a deeper experience of your deeper, truer self, your nature. And so you can't really speak about and get a sense of listening, because that, I feel like that is like that's the point, is like listening, deeply listening, and change and insight comes from within, and insight. So that's why there is only one path, because it has to be from within, and we're just guides and pointers, and the words are just guides and pointers. And I think I found it so interesting when I got to speak about this to a big group in Russia, and we had translators, and they had to use lots of words to try and describe what we were talking about when we spoke about consciousness, because there is no direct translation. So suddenly it's funny, this idea of 3 principles, but one of the principles, there's no direct translation. So there had to be all this kind of discussion to try and point people. So again, I remember thinking, wow, it really isn't in the words. And sometimes someone said afterwards, they stopped really listening to the person translating into Russian, and they were just kind of listening to me speaking in English, or my ex-partner speaking in English. And they got a feel for what we were saying, a feel for what we're pointing to. And I think that's the beautiful thing about this, that even if you don't speak the language and you're just listening, it seems you get a feel or a sense of where the person's coming from and where they're trying to point towards. So don't worry about remembering any of this stuff or the words, the 3 principles. There's been a lot of talk recently about, well, that we shouldn't use that word because it confuses people, and it's not in the words. Sid said that over and over again. It's not in the words. It's in that deeper feeling that we find within ourselves. And we've all experienced, even if it's just a tiny glimpse, we've all experienced it before we ever heard of 3 principles.
Yeah. And if we perhaps haven't experienced it as we remember, we all know it's available to us, and that's why we're here. On some deeper level, we're all here because we know there is more to us than meets the eye. We know that. And now we've set on the exciting path of starting to discover it. And believe me, it's the most exciting path. It's the most wonderful path. I can't think of a better path, a better walk I'd rather take. So yeah, listening. Some people would say listen to it like you're listening to music. You don't judge it, unless you're some music critic. Let's not be music critics. Let's just enjoy it. Let's just enjoy it. Whilst we're here, there's nothing to do. You're here right now. That's it. The mind may be wondering, oh, I've got to do this. I think I've got to do this. I've got to do that. Not right now, because you're here. Right now, this is all there is. This is time for ourselves. This is about us first. Us first. Us first, the kindest thing we can offer ourselves. Us first, the kindest thing we can offer our families. Us first, the kindest thing we can offer our society. And us first, the kindest thing we can offer the world. I'm not talking about being a selfish taker. I'm talking about us first, delving into spiritual growth. Because from that, we naturally become more loving, caring people. Because it's the only thing that starts to make sense. And therefore, we show up in our families different. And our families start to change. Believe me, my family thought I was fucking mental. They thought I joined a cult. I'd got accused of being radicalized, back on drugs. Mental. Why? Because I suddenly found happiness. Oh, Dave's found happiness. Now he's really lost the plot. Oh, God, now we really better be wary of him. Do you know what? Dave's happy. Dave's happy. Took a while. But I'll tell you what, my family isn't the same family as it was a few years ago. Everybody on this screen now is a catalyst. Believe me, every single one of us. Without fail, if you're on this screen now or you're listening to the recording, you are a catalyst. You are here. You're here to help yourself and to help others. Whether you like that or not, you are going to help other people. David, did you want to say something at that point where you just flicked your mic?
Oh, no, that was just a sound of resonance with what you're saying. That's all. Yeah.
We like the sound of resonance.
Yeah. Love it.
Bless you, man.
Sure.
We're all lighthouses. We're all lighthouses. We're all in our own way guiding people out of the darkness into the light, into the safety. Not that there's really anything to be afraid of. But if you're on this screen, that's what you are, and that's why you're here. You have a purpose. and you're perfect. Without exception. And I don't care what your history is. I don't care what you've done. Thank you for being here. Jen and I do this work because we want to see a more beautiful world. How do we create a more beautiful world? By helping people. Nature's got it figured. The thing we need to look at in this world is the people.
One of the things I often say at that point is it's the wonderful thing about this is, despite anything going on in the world, and despite anything that's happened in your past, I don't know, there's a shift that can happen where you live in a more beautiful world. Nothing has to change.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that was the thing that I really, really saw, was that nothing had to change. Nothing did change, and suddenly I was in a beautiful experience. And I think that's the good news. Because if we had to wait for other people or the world to kind of to change and for things to not happen in the world and all of that, then we would be at the mercy of it. We would be victims, because we couldn't experience peace and joy and see beauty until that happened. But we are the creators of reality. We are the creators of our world. So in a shift in consciousness, suddenly you can experience peace and beauty and love right in this moment. And I think that was the thing that blew my mind. Nothing has to change, because you realize the truest state. And that truest state is one of love, but not personal love, not love that has conditions. It's a love really that I feel like I get to glimpse, and I get to, I think probably since having Lucia, like probably the closest I've had to that true feeling of unconditional, just I'd do anything. But I know still that that's through my filters. But I think it touches upon, I don't know, it's like it's a deeper feeling than I've ever experienced before, and it's I feel like it's the truest guide. So just know that I don't know what's going on for different people in their lives right now, but you don't have to think about other people. You don't have to think about, how would I share this with someone else, or if you're listening for a partner or a child, or don't listen for anybody else. Listen for yourself. Because as you start to see, as you start to shift, the world around you looks different. You show up different. And I think that's the magical thing about this. Like you were saying, we're lighthouses, we're catalysts. And we ran a program called the Ripple Effect. And it's like, you know, when you like drop a tiny pebble into water and like the ripples that go out. And I think sometimes we don't realize just how powerful we are, and the fact that we are that stone being dropped, and you've got no idea where those ripples can go, but they just go out and out and out and out. And I think that's the beautiful thing about this. I think like my role is, when I'm working with people, is to hold a space and see their beauty and their health when they can't see it for themselves. And I just keep speaking to that, and I keep looking to that, and keep pointing to that. And when people touch on it and you kind of see them light up. And the other thing is that we aren't sat here as experts.
No.
Like, I feel like whenever we do these retreats, we gain so much and we learn so much when people share, which is why we always allow time for questions, reflections, and observations. Because we all sit here as learners, and we all sit here as teachers. So if there's things that come up for you that you'd like to share, then please share, or questions that come up. Because there'll be someone else on the screen that maybe has the same question. There'll be someone else on the screen that really needs to hear what you have to say. Like, we want this to be collaborative. We want to facilitate a space. And for the people that have joined on since we started, we said if there's things that people would like to get or questions they have, you're welcome to pop them in the chat, or you can raise your hand and we'll add it to the board, because these are some of the things that people said. So we've got listening, a bit of a reminder. I won't read that one. A bit of a top up and dealing with others who are in low moods. Peace of mind and not being bothered by others, and overthinking.
I think that's just what Paul Mackey just kind of alluded to just there.
What is the truth? People are saying they'd like to reground, who've maybe been around it for a while. Gaining insight into the nature of life. Acceptance, the feeling, and acceptance of self. So if there's anything,
you can even read that.
If there's anything people would like to add to that, either write it in the chat or you can just put your hand up.
Yeah, Paul, I feel like what you just said there is on the board here, mate, and we will come to that, man. We will come. Yeah, so there may be brand new people, I don't know, and there certainly may be brand new people listening to the recordings. So one of the first things that we want to talk about is, you might like what I did here. 3 P's, not 3 T's. Yeah, this is clever. This is using the old noggin.
You came out of the bath with this.
I came out of the bath with this. Yeah, this is some top-notch shit right now. 3 principles: mind, consciousness, and thought are not the 3 T's. A technique, a theory, or a therapy. Thanks, man. Thanks, Jerry, lad. See, stick around. A decade in, you can have that kind of. You can have that. It's available for everybody. Ah, right. We're done. Yeah, I think it's a really important point, though. Okay, what we're talking about when we're talking about Sid's 3 principles, they weren't Sid's 3 principles. The pre-existing principles. All right, so what we're talking about isn't something that we've invented as human beings. We're talking about something that invented the human being. Not one of our great inventions, not one of humanity's great inventions, not one of humanity's great theories. We're talking about fundamental principles. Okay, now we can argue about them as individual things, whether they're separate. No, they're not separate. Sid Banks himself said it's the Trinity of one. Trinity, try, 3. 3 in 1. One force with 3 facets. Like a diamond with 3 cut faces. Could you get that? You couldn't have that, could you? No, you couldn't possibly get that. But imagine you could.
It's a pyramid.
Yeah, but it wouldn't be a pyramid because that's got 5 faces. Or 4 faces. You couldn't have it. Yeah, but anyway, that's how elusive this stuff is. That's how mind-bending this stuff actually is. It's like a diamond with 3 cut faces. And it really is like that as well. It really is incomprehensible. It really is incomprehensible. Because what Sid's 3 principles are really pointing to cannot be found with the intellect, which is the thing that does the comprehension. It's that makes sense of everything which then creates the idea that it's comprehended something. The ego loves comprehension. But what Sid's 3 principles are pointing to are pre-existing force. And just for the sake of argument, we're going to break it down, and then I want to talk about why it isn't a theory, why it isn't a therapy, and why it isn't a technique. So Kendra, you said one of the things you'd like to do is remember how to apply the principles. Don't worry about it. There's no application. Pre-applied, nothing to apply. There's nothing to do with this conversation. When I heard that, when I first came across this, and Sue, I wish she was on now, but she's not. When Sue came along and said, Dave, do you know what? There's nothing to do. I'm like, nothing to do? Count me in. I was lazy, man. I was so lazy. And if somebody says there's nothing to do, I'll be like, I'll do that. I'll do that. Sid's principles of mind, consciousness, and thought. He called them universal. Universal mind, universal consciousness, universal thought, all encompassing, universal, universe, all encompassing, all within the one. If you look up the word universe in a dictionary, uni obviously meaning singular, verse meaning whole, verse meaning creation, one creation, one whole. Universal, universal mind. And Sid described the universal mind as the intelligence that underpins the entire universe. It underpins nature, it underpins humanity, it underpins the way that the body functions, because it created it. It created it out of itself. Universal mind, the intelligence behind all things, the source of all things, the source of all knowledge, the source of matter. Universal mind, another word that was given to universal mind quite often is the word God. God, the origin. Now, many people don't like the word God. You can quickly lose probably 60% of the population if you use the G-bomb. So Sid, in the end, ended up using the word universal mind. And he'd say, you know what? Humanity is really mindless. It doesn't have its own individualized mind. Everything is the same mind. Everything is the same mind. Everyone is the same mind playing the game of separation. There is only one mind in this universe, and we are all it. Universal consciousness. Wherever you go on the planet, you meet someone, you meet consciousness. When you pick up a thing, you meet consciousness. Anybody who's into quantum physics and you look at the the double slit experiment, the origin of the discovery of quantum physics, look up the double slit experiment, what you'll find is, one, it takes an observer to collapse reality, the physical reality in the outside world into being. But two, the electrons and the photons that are collapsing into the atomic structure are also aware they're being observed. So even the tiniest particles are aware. That's what quantum physics is pointing to. You have complete consciousness through all things. Now that goes in alignment with Hinduism and Buddhism, which speak to the oneness of life and have done for thousands of years, whereby everything is a state of consciousness. Rocks, crystals, minerals are still a state of consciousness. This earth is a state of consciousness. We give the name of it Gaia. The sun is a state of consciousness. Everything in between is consciousness. There is only consciousness. There is only awareness. There is only mind. There is only universal mind. And then there's universal thought. I'm not sure if I'm going to pronounce his name right, but a man named Jean, I think he was a physicist, said the universe is starting to look like a giant thought. More and more, this universe is starting to look like one giant thought. Universal thought. The infinite creative force. Infinite, it has no end. Will we ever run out of thoughts? Will humanity ever run out of ideas? Can you comprehend the day when humanity suddenly stops dead and goes, well, we're fucked, what are we going to do now? What do you mean? We've just run out of thoughts. You're joking? No. Oh. Don't know then. I can't comprehend that day. Infinite thought. Infinite creative potential courses through consciousness as consciousness. Mind, consciousness, and thought. Wherever you go on the planet, you are speaking to mind, consciousness, thought. I used to be a tree surgeon. I will expand on this, I'm sure, over the next few days. Why I stopped cutting trees when I realized they were conscious experiential beings. Mind, consciousness, thought. We're not talking about the physical brain. We don't need to. We don't need to talk about the body. Why? We need to wake up to what's beyond the body. That's what this conversation is about. You know what? A dead body doesn't think. A dead body doesn't experience anything. That's why conversations around the body are just kind of looking in the wrong direction. I'm not saying the body isn't beautiful. The body is fantastic. The body is the most beautiful, beautiful machine. But without consciousness, without thought, without mind, it just disintegrates back into the earth. It goes back to where it came from. The reason why we have studied the body over the last few centuries is because we can study the body, we can measure it. And in doing so, we've come up with some amazing ideas and amazing technologies and amazing, amazing medicines. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. That is not a pointless exercise in our science and study of the body. However, there is a more beautiful thing we can start to discover, and that is the true nature of life. More often than not, when we start to discover that kind of thing, we start to heal. Our bodies start to heal. I know mine did. My body healed drastically. It needed to. I was killing myself. I was making myself very, very sick. My heart was under great strain. I remember climbing a tree one time and having I think it was a minor heart attack. I just abseiled out of this tree. I was at Brocco and I lay on the floor and I was coughing, and I was coughing to try and get my heart to go into a proper rhythm. Maybe it was a panic attack, I don't know. Either way, it was out of sync. I was diagnosed with chemical imbalances of the brain. I was told that I would suffer from depression for the rest of my life. Well, I may find ways to cope. But with a shift in consciousness, it all stopped. It all cleared itself up. My depression vanished. My heart palpitations, whatever the hell they were, stopped. My chemicals equalized themselves. So the principles are already applied. You are conscious thinking mind, as we all are, universally. Now, these are just words. Like Sid said over and over again, stop, don't listen to my words. Like the word pencil isn't the woody object with graphite in the middle. The word pencil we all agree on, I'm assuming. But it's not the object. It's a noise. Pencil is a noise. That is an object. We get very, very hung up on words. That's another thing about listening. One of the things I've learned I have to do is, when you say that word, what does that mean to you? Like, I remember one time being with Jen and saying, she's hot. She went, what? Like, she's hot. You want to have sex with her? No. What do you mean? What? Why would you say that? Well, that's what that means. No, she's hot means she's pretty. No, that means you want to have sex with her. No, it means I'm pretty. I mean, I'm pretty. She's pretty. You see, with our language, very, very often we're listening through our prejudices of what we think each word means. So starting to become aware of that means that we can start to ask more questions in order to be able to hear more deeply. Well, I remember putting on one of our community group boards the word God and said, please, 16 people. I said, please give me a number between 1 and 10. 10 being I love it, 1 being I hate it. What does that word mean to you? And we had every single number on this board between 1 and 10. 2, 3, 4, 5. And I remember this girl looking at it and going, oh my God, it's true. We really do all see the world differently. Yeah. Even in our language, even with words. Even with words. So getting curious and asking people, what do you mean by that word, is a very, very useful thing when it comes to listening to people. Because what one word means to me means something different to Jenny, means something different to my client, means something different to my mother, my father. Lucy has made up the word aki for milk. Aki, aki. It means milk to her. It's just a noise. Words are just noises and scribbles. The truth doesn't lie in the noise or the scribble. Noises and scribbles come from the power of thought. We come up with the idea of them. Language comes from thought. Thought does not come from language. Language is secondary. Thought is first, primary. Okay, and when we're talking about the power of thought, very, very, and I feel that this is where some people can get caught up. We're not talking about thinking. Thinking is an aspect of thought. It's not the totality of it. My thoughts are not the totality of the power of thought, the potential of thought. If anybody truly realizes the power of thought, they realize source, God. They realize primary creator. The power of thought is primary creator. It is universal mind. It's the unified field in quantum physics. What we tend to misunderstand about the power of thought and thinking. Thinking is what thought does. Thinking is a potential born of thought, like a wave is a potential born of the ocean. We're talking about the ocean, not the wave. We can talk about our waves till the day we die because they're infinite. And that's what we've been encouraged to do, is talk about our waves, to look at our waves, to study our waves, to criticize our waves, to become afraid of our waves, our thoughts, our experiences. But what Jen and I want to draw your attention to, and where I feel like Annette, who you're talking about, has missed the point of realizing that what Sid was really pointing to was the ocean of infinite potential that lies at the heart of all of us, without exception. Without exception. Okay, so the 3 P's are not the 3 T's. I'm gonna copyright that. They're not a technique. They're not a technique. 3 principles are not a technique. They've always existed. They're the origin of all, everything. Everything is an idea of this, whatever force you want to call this universe. Sid called it universal mind. Everything is an idea of that. Look at it. Look at the beautiful way we're all made up. We're all made different as well. Look at the beautiful way nature works with itself, so beautifully balanced. It's because it's intelligent. I forget, I keep saying this, I must look up who it is, who said, which scientist it was that said, the simplest answer is usually the correct answer. And to me, when I look at this universe, and I look at the way it all works so beautifully, so perfectly, intelligence is the only way forward. And people would argue that, and I'd say, well, where does mankind's intelligence come from? And they would say, the brain. I'd say, okay, what thought up the brain? Well, the brain didn't need thinking up. It is a collapsing of energy into matter, and from there, consciousness is born. And my argument to that is, okay, well, what tells the brain to function? What tells a neuron to fire? What tells the brain to create a neurological pathway in such a beautiful way? What organizes the brain? Because no matter, no physical matter, which the brain is, can move without energy. What's the energy? What's the non-physical aspect of that is telling the brain what to do? And why does a brain without life living it anymore, why does it just disintegrate back to nothing? The brain requires consciousness in order to operate. The brain requires thought, mind, in order to operate. Without it, it just shrivels up to nothing and disappears. All you're left with is a bone with a space in it where a brain once existed. They're not a technique. It's not a technique. Nobody's taught us how to think. Nobody's taught us the power of thought. We were born with the capacity to think. I look at Lucia and I'm like, it's not actually, I've realized it's not my job to teach her. It's my job to cut down on my swearing and stuff that I really don't want her to do, because she's learning rapidly. She comes out with words and I'm like, how do you even know that? How do you even know that? Thankfully, she hasn't picked up on a swear word yet. Hiya, Denise.
Hi.
You all right?
Yeah, hi.
I know what to do. Nice to see you, love. Even though I can't see you, I can know it is by a giggle. Loads of love.
Thanks. I just woke up, so I'm having tea, making it now.
Yes, please. Loads of love. Welcome, Francis. It's up to you whether you want to think about it. Is it a theory? Is this theory? Well, you could argue it is theory. If you argue that words are theory. Fair enough. Yes. But the point that they're pointing to is not theory. Consciousness is not a theoretical idea. It's a living experience. The power of thought is not a theoretical idea. I don't think there'd be a single theoretical physicist who would argue the power of thought. We come from something, we come from somewhere, we come from somehow. Whatever the origin is, Sid called mind. Even if it's nothing. That's not theoretical. We have an origin before form. You may want to call it energy. My friend who spoke to her dad the other day, who is a theoretical physicist, said that quarks have the capacity to just come in from nowhere and back into nowhere. They're born from nothing and go back like that. Bang, bang, appear, disappear, take form, lose form. This is the building block of the physical universe. These are the building blocks of the physical universe. These are the building blocks of our bodies. We're quantum beings. The three principles are not a theory. And they're not a therapy. All right. The 3 principles don't fix anything. The 3 principles used in an illogical, unwise way create hell on earth. How could you possibly start a war without a thought? Without consciousness there to experience the thought? How could we end a war without thought? How could we possibly experience depression without thought? How could we possibly experience joy without thought? You see, the 3 principles in and of themselves are not a therapy. Many people, I see it on their websites. I do NLP, CBT, hypnosis, and the 3 principles. No. You can, but no. Sid said they don't mix. Don't mix the 3 principles with other things. Not you shouldn't. No, don't do that. He's not saying no, don't do that. He's saying no, they don't mix. It's like oil and water. CBT is born of mankind's mind. Cognitive behavioral therapy. All therapeutic techniques are born of mankind's mind. Generally of Freud's insights. But all those insights were born of thought, were born because the principles existed. So every single therapy that exists on the face of the planet, no matter what the therapy is a consequence of the 3 principles. The 3 principles are primary. Everything after the 3 principles is secondary, is a consequence. That's why they are a different conversation to a therapy. However, I always say this, but the therapeutic value is immeasurable when people start to gain insight into the nature of mind, because when they start to gain insight into the nature of mind, they start to realize their way into mental health. Why? Because they start to gain insight into the nature of reality. They start to gain insight into the illusions that they've been living out of thinking were truth. Everything is a consequence of the principles. Like Sid said, you've got the ultimate philosophy, theology, and physics. I think that's a really exciting discovery. I know personally, since I've discovered it, it changed my life to the point where I have spent a large percentage of my life studying consciousness, studying people, studying plants, studying life. And life has become very exciting. Right. Let's take a break. Let's come back at... Let's come back at 5 o'clock. So that's about 15 minutes according to my clock. So if we take 15 minutes, just have a bit of a break and go and get some fresh air, put kettle on, use the toilet. And I'll see you back in 15 minutes. Welcome back, everyone. So yeah, hope that people can start to get a sense of this is never going to fix anybody. It's good on, sorry, one sec, everyone. It's good on Facebook. It's wrong on this site page, I think. So look on the site page, love.
I'll
Thanks,
have
Angela.
to on the break because I have to do it on the computer. So I think on our website. But thank you.
Oh, all right, cheers. Technical shizzle. Yeah, you know, people often come and work with us and they'll often talk about their brokenness. You know, well, because most people come to this conversation because there is something that they're trying to heal. I came to this conversation because there was something I was trying to heal. I've tried many different ways of healing my broken self, and I never managed. I never managed. I remember one of my dear friends who I love dearly, who I used to go to school with, came to one of our community groups, and she said, I've been trying to fix myself for 20 odd years, Dave, and Jen just looked at her and went, how's that going? And she went, not very well. She said, you've been trying to fix yourself for 20 years and you've not managed. And she said, no. And then Jen said to her, have you ever considered it's because you're trying to fix something that was never broken? And she'd never considered that. That girl went through a massive change in the following conversations. Once she realized she wasn't trying to fix something, there was nothing to fix, she could listen and start to understand how something actually works. Because it's only our misunderstanding as to the nature of reality and the nature of mind and the nature of experience, the nature of life, that causes all our suffering and the illusion that we are broken people, psychologically broken. And I'm talking any diagnosis. Our fundamental beingness, our essence is never break. It doesn't break. You can't break it. It's spiritual. You can't break spiritual. It's impossible. It has no form to break. You can't snap it because it's not. If I can snap this, it's got a form. You can't snap consciousness. You can't scratch it. You can't scar it. Scars are thoughts. They're thoughts, they're memories. And I think this speaks to what Annette was speaking to, and about how certain people are saying, you know, the principles is missing a major part, it's missing the body. You know, trauma is stored in the body. What is trauma? Well, trauma is the memory of an event that took place that we really did not like. Is that not trauma? Something happens, it's traumatic. And then we remember it. And the moment we remember it, we re-experience it. Thought creates reality. So that would stand to reason that the moment we remember a traumatic event, that we would then experience it. So when people are saying, you know, trauma is stored in the body, how could you possibly experience trauma without thought? One of the things we're not saying is that thought is located in the brain. That's one thing we're not saying. That's a massive misconception. I think in the video that I saw, this individual then goes on to talk about an experiment by which they flashed up images. I've seen this footage myself years ago, and they flash up images of things like a snake attacking and a spider, things that people may be afraid of, and road traffic victims and horrific injuries. And they also show pictures of beautiful flowers and babies and beautiful mountainscapes and sunsets, things that really uplift us. And what they noticed was the heart knew before the brain. The heart knew before the brain what was going on, but not just that. The heart knew before the image even took place on the screen what was coming next, whether it was scary or whether it was beautiful. It sent the message to the brain. Now, some people are saying that because of this, thought can't be involved. It must be the body. But how could you have comprehension without consciousness or thought? We must expand our idea of what our understanding of what thought actually is. We must expand our idea of what thought actually is. We're not saying thought is a product of the brain. Trees are conscious thinking beings. How do I know? Go for a walk. Go walk through a woodland. Look up. Look how they don't touch one another. When I was a tree surgeon, I cut them. They knew they'd been cut and they healed. If I took 40 years worth of growth off a sycamore tree, within 7 or 8 years, it will be back to the same size through rapid cellular growth called epicormic growth. The trees were fully aware of what had happened to them. They knew fine well. They responded, they reacted. They reacted in a very intelligent way. We've subsequently come to know that they send messages to one another. How could they possibly send a message if they didn't have a message in the first place? How could you possibly have a message without thought? But there is no brain. Some people would then argue, Dave, the brain is the mycelium fungal network in the wood. They call it the wood wide web. And I'd go, yeah, that's fine. But what about the field tree, the lonely, isolated field tree without connection to the mycelium wood network? What about the lonely, isolated field tree, the only tree for acres? Is that incapable of consciousness? Is that incapable of thought? Of course not. The lonely, isolated field tree, when it was cut, responded in exactly the same way as the woodland trees. It's a tree. It doesn't have a brain. It doesn't have a nervous system like the human being or the animal kingdom. But it is still very capable of making decisions. Walk through the woodland and look at how the trees move for the light. It's not random. If it was random, they'd all be bumping into one another and rubbing up against each other, introducing fungal like infections and bacterial infections to one another because of the constant rubbing and the breaking of the bark and the cambium layer, opening them up like we would if we were to cut our skin, open up our insides to infection. But trees grow, you know, you've seen trees that have grown round and they've grown round this tree and around that tree and they've grown for the light. How could they possibly move in that direction without some form of intelligence? How can you have intelligence without consciousness? How can you have intelligence without thought? This is one of human beings' greatest misunderstandings. We think that thought is a product of the brain. That's a really, that's caused so many problems. It's led to silly ideas like humanity is something separate from nature. Like human beings aren't nature, and in doing so, we've created the human world and the natural world, and in doing that, it's meant that we've got something to work against. We've always worked against nature for our own greater good, or so it would appear. Because we created a separation, we created this idea that animals don't think. They work on instinct. Human beings are different because we work on thought. Animals work on instinct. What the hell's instinct? What is instinct? What is this intelligence that has brought the swallows up from South Africa this year, over the Sahara Desert, up over through the Mediterranean, into Europe, into Great Britain? How did the same swallow make it back to the nest that it left when it fledged its nest in the first time? How does it end up at the back at exactly the same eaves that it was born in, having travelled halfway around the earth? We call it, oh, I've just forgotten the word.
Imprint.
No, it wasn't imprint, Mum. Call it instinct. Animals work on instinct. Nature works on instinct. Human beings, they work on thought. What a misunderstanding. Surely instinct is thought that is not understood by mankind. You see, to me, instinct and wisdom would be considered the same thing. A greater intelligence than the intellect that guides, that when followed leads to where we truly want to go, like the swallow handing itself over to instinct to arrive back at the same nest that it fledged from. Like the eel that sets off in the Sargasso Sea and ends up at the same tributary to a river that it was born in, having swum across the Atlantic Ocean from the Bay of Mexico, Gulf of Mexico, back to a tributary in a Scottish Highland mountain glen somewhere. Instinct. Instinct is something we all have access to. To me, instinct is greater knowledge than intellect. To me, instinct is thought that is not understood at this current moment in time by humanity. So when we're talking about thought, we're talking about infinite potential. Infinite. We're talking about something so much greater than cognition. We're talking about, it's a much bigger conversation. Every single cell in our body is conscious. Hey, Francis. Every single cell in our body is conscious. Look into the work of Dr. Bruce Lipton and epigenetics. And you'll realize that every single thing that makes up our physical body is aware. It thinks. It makes decisions. So when they say trauma is located in the body, I don't have a problem with that. I really don't. But only because of consciousness and thought. Only because of consciousness and thought. Like I've said before, this scar on my thumb, I don't know if you can even see it. I had to go cutting my thumb off with a chainsaw. My cells remember to produce scar tissue. They remember the trauma. Now, those cells have the capacity to create non-scar that exists, the potential exists, but they remember the trauma and they keep on producing scar tissue, which is why the scar, even though my cells replicate, I don't know how often, how long for a cell, is it a couple of skin cells, a couple of months or something like that? I don't know. But many repetitions of reproduction have gone through this scar and it keeps on producing itself. There is a memory within the cells. Thought. We must open up our ideas, expand our ideas of what we think thought is. Because as we do so, we start to expand our idea of who and what we truly are. And in doing so, we start to break down the limiting ideas of who and what we think we are, our egoic concepts of who we think we are and what we think we are and who we should be, what we've done, our past. Sid always said, it's not your thoughts or my thoughts you're looking for the power of thought. You're looking to realize the power of thought. He also said, mind, another word for mind, is God. Another word for consciousness is God. And another word for thought is God. Not a religious deity. But the source. The source of creation. We, as beings, as human beings, give birth to a creation that we call our life, our reality. Every single one of us is a conscious, creating being. Every single one of us creates our own experience of life that looks entirely plausible and real and true. $8 billion human separate realities walking the face of the earth right now. 8 billion people, each in their own experience of reality. Each of them thinking that their experience is the true experience. Even those 8 billion, apparently, I've never actually counted all these people, by the way, but we're told 8 billion people. 8 billion separate realities walking the earth right now. 8 billion conscious experiential beings walking the earth right now, each creating their own reality, each dreaming their own reality, each believing their reality is the truth, the way, correct. It's this misunderstanding which is the birthplace of war, greed, suffering. It creates a division of I'm right and you're wrong. Why would you say that? Why would you do that? I wouldn't do that. I would never do that. We all know those people who have those conversations. Perhaps it's been ourselves time to time. People do what they do because it makes sense to them. It looks real to them. Don't know about anybody else, but my reality looks friggin' real. So real, in fact, that it took this conversation for me to wake up from it, to see it for what it was. I needed it pointing out to me. I wasn't one of those people who happened to stumble across it. I needed somebody to point it out to me, and that's why I'm thankful to Sue and Sid. One of the things I heard Sid say in the video that I watched when I finally got round to watching him was two things that really struck a chord with me. Well, the first one was, what I discovered is that life is a psychological experience. What I discovered is that life is a psychological experience. And then later on in the video, he said twice, you think it's real. It's not real. You just think it's real. We think the way that we survey life is the truth. We don't realize it's a potential created from thought, the creative force of reality. And the moment our mind changes, our experiential reality changes. And funnily enough, so does the world around us. Suddenly people who we have insight around suddenly stop looking a certain way and they become a different person. Why? Because everybody we meet is a character we've created out of the power of thought within ourselves. We create a character for everybody we meet. We created a character for ourselves. A damaged person, or this or that. Awesome, fantastic, go-getter, whatever it be, I don't know. We create this character. All limitations placed upon our true self, but these limitations are just beliefs, thoughts that look real, thoughts that mean something to ourselves. Jen, do you want to say something, love?
Yeah, I was just going to say, when I kind of came across the principles, I created ideas and concepts about what it meant and what I should and shouldn't do. But I see that that was my creation, because really I feel like the conversation of the principles is an invitation to recognize our freedom of mind, our freedom of thought, freedom. And one of the things that I was amazed about is I'd had a back problem for a long time, and I went and saw a friend who does something called body stress release. And we had the session, and she said, oh, you know, sometimes people sort of can have a bit of an emotional response, or, you know, things might come up. And I was like, yeah, probably not me. But it was so interesting because after the session, I kind of got flooded with emotion, and we sat and she actually hugged me for a while. And then the same thing happened the next time, but it happened the next day. I had like this huge kind of just tears, floods and floods of tears, and it felt like a release. And I don't know what that is or what it was about. There's no content, but there seems to be ideas around, well, if you understand the principles, then that's all you need. That's all you need. And it's like the principles is describing what is, what's already happening, what's up and running. And then we have this incredible freedom of mind and insight and intuition to kind of guide our lives. And I was guided to have this session, and it really helped resolve a problem with my back. And I don't begin to say that I know how it all works, but I really want people to realize this isn't about telling you how to live, what to do, what not to do, what to believe. We're trying to point to like how that happens, how we create, how we get ideas, how we find beliefs. Like it's what's behind life. It has no location. It has no, these are spiritual principles. They're not located anywhere. Like, we're having dinner at the moment. So Lucia's saying, please pass me the yogurt. But I just felt like it was really important for people to realize this isn't saying don't get interested in other, like if you're interested in going to see a body stress release, or you're interested in yoga or meditation, like do what makes your heart sing. This conversation isn't in any way restrictive. It's kind of pointing to the creative force, the creative nature, God mind, like whatever we want to call it. And I think that people should come away from these kind of conversations feeling freer rather than more confined and restricted. And as I look back, I can see that it was me that created these ideas and concepts that made me feel like I should or I shouldn't. It was never the principles. And, you know, at some points, different practitioners may have given a personal opinion, and I've taken that on as truth. Whereas what the principles point to is before opinion, before a belief. So I feel that's a really important point for people to realize that this is no way trying to teach you how to be in the world or what to do or what not to do. And when I realized that, like the freedom I found in, you know, I love to sometimes have meditation, or I've loved to go to yoga classes. It was incredible seeing Therese for body stress release. And I'm just kind of in awe of like all these incredible things that we have available to us. And I'm kind of getting really, really insightful and kind of in touch with myself and being guided in the same way I am with nutrition. I've always just blindly believed that person knows what they're talking about. I'll do what they say. They must know the way. And actually, when I deeply listen to myself, I kind of know what I should eat and what I shouldn't eat, and have a bit more of this. And I see that with Lucia. Like, she is so intuitive with how she eats. I don't think we realize that that's what the principles is pointing to, that we are our best guide, our best teacher. It's about really deeply listening and kind of throwing away concept, throwing away idea, throwing away beliefs, and just coming up fresh in the moment. What comes? What is it? And everyone has that. And I feel like that's what I was speaking about a little bit earlier, is we get more and more discerning with our own minds or our own thought, and know kind of when it's habitual belief, kind of we think this stuff most of the time, and it's something new and fresh, guiding us in a different direction. So I hope you could hear that over Lucia's beautiful singing and tapping of her spoon. But yeah, I just wanted to add that, so thank you.
Cheers, Jen. Beautifully put. Hey, Baba. Thanks, Jen. M said, can you go deeper into beliefs and programming from childhood and past and how it comes into play? Is it merely the pure awareness and understanding that is how we move past this? I think we all pick up stuff as we go through life. I know I did. I picked up stuff from my mum and my dad. Picked up ideas. I went to prison because my dad said to me, you should always look after your family. Always look after your family no matter what. And mum said to me a few years ago, which I'd never even considered, she said, you know what? She said, you went to prison because I was attacked. I said, go on. What do you mean? She said, well, when I was attacked, somebody tried to rape my mum down the lane where we live. She was walking to work and somebody tried to drag her into a field. And the same friend who I was talking about before, funnily enough, who came to our community group, a school friend of mine, her mum showed up and this fella ran off. And my dad became exceptionally protective. He became exceptionally protective. And this is when he started to instill in me as I went through my life, as I got older. He said, you always look after your family, son. You always look after your family. Always look after your family. And I took that on board and I was like, all right, yeah. And then the moment my sister was attacked, of course, I'm carrying around this belief, this blind belief. Oh, bless Em, she's just clicking back in now. She disappeared off. Sorry, Em. You haven't missed much, love. I used to carry around this belief of you must protect your family. And when my sister was attacked in the street, and then later on she pointed out who it was, I went and roughed them up. It turned out this was a totally innocent person. My sister was pissed out of her head and she made a complete and utter mistake, did my sister. So some poor innocent tourist took a bit of a hiding. And I went to prison. Yeah, we can carry these beliefs around. You know, we're born into this world and it makes no sense because we come from a spiritual world. We come from a spiritual dimension into a form dimension, and we have no memory of our spiritual essence. We have no memory of our origin. We have no memory of our God self, our source self. We're literally born into this physical dimension and we open up our eyes and go. And that's why so many kids, babies, you see, you have this bewildered look on their face. I'm sure it is, because they're just like, what the hell? What's all this? We've forgotten ourselves. We've forgotten who and what we truly are the moment we're born and we open up our eyes and we survey this world and we see people. And so over time, we start to work out who we can and we cannot trust. And those that we trust, we want to be more like, and we're like, all right, I feel safe with you. Come on, give me your ideas. And we take them on board and we build up our little characters and our little ego. That's what the ego is made of. It's made up of beliefs. That's what the ego is. It's a ball of beliefs. It's a ball of thoughts. That's how big the ego actually is. It doesn't actually exist. It's just a concept of our own mind. But this ego is the sum total of everything we believe. That's why ego is the root to all suffering. And that's why the moment the ego is seen for what it is, all suffering ceases. The moment the ego is seen through, we see through an aspect of our ego, there's suddenly this massive release. You could call it karma. Karma, what they call karma and ego are inseparable. The beliefs that we carry around with ourselves. And they're what colour and flavour our world, like Jesus Christ said in the book of Thomas, or Yeshua said in the book of Thomas, to be more accurate. He said, it's done unto you as you believe. The way you believe is the way your world will appear to you. This is all a spiritual manifestation of thought. Now, what do we do with that? For an individual who's looking for peace, what do we do with that? Well, hopefully this conversation will shine some light on it. The answer that everybody is seeking appears to be an intellectual answer. Now, I know Em wants me to give her an intellectual answer to this, one which an intellect can go, okay, yeah, let's go for that. Let's try that. Let's try that. Okay, let's go for that. But the answer doesn't lie there. That's just more ego food. The answer lies before the ego. The answer lies before the belief. Before the belief, you are. Like Jesus said, I am. Before anything. Before the belief, I am. I must be there. I must exist in order for the belief to exist. I must exist before the belief. I am is fundamental. What we do, though, is we take I am and then we stick a label on the end. I am full of belief. And then we identify with the full of belief. I am, I don't know, Christian. And then we identify with the Christian. I am Muslim. And then we identify with the Muslim. I am Jewish. And then we identify with the Jewish. I am bipolar. Then we identify with the bipolar. I'm a bad person. And then we identify with the bad person. I'm not good enough. And then we identify with the not good enough. You see, we identify with that creation that we actually created. That's the ego. That's the false self. That's the illusory self. That we tell ourselves that we are. That's an illusion. That's a complete fabrication. But the thing is, everybody's wanting to try and figure out, how do I tweak the ego? They're trying to fix the illusion with the illusion. The key to it, is to forget all about it, love. All of that creates a complicated idea within our mind that looks like there's something fundamental that we must overcome, when in actual fact, it's nothing. It doesn't really exist other than that we breathe life into it. That's a very, like this whole Freud thing of the past being it's our traumas of the past. One of the things that set me free the most was when I realized it doesn't exist. The past doesn't exist. It's done. It's over. It's over. It's all over. It's finished. It's gone forever. It's done. And the moment an individual comes to the now, to the present, they find life. Nobody ever has spiritual experiences studying the past, ever. People always have spiritual experiences when they find the now. That's why there's so many books written about the now. Come back to the now. Stop blaming the past for why somebody's behaving like they are now. People are behaving like they are now because they're thinking like they're thinking now. Because they're acting on what they're creating now that looks real to them. You know, I often think the word now, another word for the word now is God. Now is the moment of creation. You never meet God in the past or the future. You meet God in the now. The moment of creation, eternally. And when people meet God, or they could call it realize God, where do you realize things? You realize it from within. So when people meet God, they meet God within themselves. They meet the Creator, and that's when people start to find their freedom. When they suddenly wake up and realize, I am the creator of all of this. I've created all my suffering. I did it to myself. There's nobody else to blame, not even ourselves. Forgive them, Father, for they know not what they do. We didn't know any different. So how could we have done different? Looking back and looking through our beliefs of the past is looking at the form and thinking that they are something more substantial than what they actually are. You know, we can look at beliefs and see them as a real stumbling block and something we've got to work on. We've got to work on ourselves. No, anybody who's working on themselves, or anybody who's gone on self-help programs and all this kind of stuff, and it's all working on the ego. And Sid's message was, stop looking at that's created and start to become aware of what's creating, and you will find something magical about life. And you will find that magical thing about life that you've always been looking for is you. It's life. Jesus Christ was called the living one because he spoke about life. He spoke about how life comes into being. I and the Father are one, he said. I. Everybody is I. Everybody is I. Again, I'm not talking religion here. Neither was he. He was pointing to a fundamental truth about existence. That once it is seen, the ego has nowhere to hide. It's seen for what it is, and because it's seen for what it is, it has no power, it collapses. The ego is a character. Because we are source creator beings, the ego is a character that we created for ourselves to keep ourselves safe in this world. And then we handed all our power over to it. We created a false identity which we thought would keep us safe in this world because we didn't know, we didn't understand the world. We didn't understand it. And so what I noticed that whatever human beings don't understand, they tend to become afraid of. So when we're born into this mind-blowing world and we don't understand it, it's natural that human beings will become afraid of it. That's why people, controlling people throughout the world, throughout our societies, throughout our families, controlling people. These people are some of the most suffering people on the planet. There's controlling people at the top of pretty much every country. The head of every country, there's these controlling people. They're some of the most suffering people on our planet. That's why they lead us to very unwise decisions like going to war left, right, and centre. We're all one people. We all operate in the same way. We all see a different reality. The more we wake up to that point and we accept that point as opposed to trying to impose my idea. Well, my reality is the frigging truth. You lot back the hell down. You will all fall in alignment with my reality. Why? Because then I feel safe. Then I feel safe. I feel safe then. They can't fall into line with my reality. It's impossible. They see their own realities. And nobody on earth can change that. That's not the way it was intended to be. It was always intended to be that we all have the freedom of thought. We all have the freedom to create our own experience of life. But through our misunderstandings, we've assumed reality is external. We've assumed that reality is something outside of ourselves, something that we move through and walk through day by day, moment by moment, when in actual fact, reality is something that courses through us. It's an experience that we create. through the spiritual forces that Sid was talking about, or the spiritual force that Sid was speaking about. This unbreakable spirit. The devil's in the details, Em. The devil's in the details. The distraction away from our essence, our true nature, is in the details of studying our beliefs and thoughts. What we're pointing to now for humanity is the awakening beyond that to who and what we truly are. What you've written about in your question is a conversation about how do we fix the ego. The ego doesn't exist to fix. It's a figment of our imagination. It's a ball of thoughts. It's an idea we dreamt up. It's a very convincing idea that we dreamt up. But it's amazing that we even have the capacity to do it in the first place. That's what blows my mind. Could you please talk more about the controlling and manipulative people from the three principles perspective? Exactly what I just said, Marina. The three principles doesn't have a perspective. All perspectives are born of the three principles. I know that sounds pedantic. The three principles don't have a perspective. They are fundamental essence, mind, consciousness, thought. The three principles isn't a way to live. It's not a religion. It's not a technique, theory, or therapy. It's an understanding into the nature of life. So manipulative people, well, it's a very, what's the word? Subjective idea, manipulative people. You know, if I'm feeling manipulated, I'm creating that experience of feeling manipulated. Nobody can create that experience for me. If I'm feeling victimized by somebody who I feel is manipulating me, then I'm creating that experience of feeling victimized. Nobody has the capacity to create that experience for me. And if somebody is being manipulative, from my point of view, what I would see would be an individual who is very insecure. I'm so insecure, I need people to fall into alignment with the way I think. Please. Please do. If somebody is trying to manipulate somebody else, it is because of their own insecurities. Not something that I need to read into too much. Once it's seen, you'll know what to do. There's not really an awful lot more to really say on that, I don't think, love. I really want to take people away from the details. It's the devil's in the details, the devil's in the details, the devil's in the details. I would say that manipulative people are deeply insecure people. You must be aware of deeply insecure people. Deeply insecure people do some frigging stupid shit. But I know I found an awful lot of forgiveness for people who do frigging stupid shit when I woke up and realized this. People's realities look real to them. They don't know how it works. They haven't woken up to see the true spiritual nature of life beyond their egoic identity, their egoic concepts of who we think that, like Sid said, what is the ego? It's your idea as to what you think people and this world and universe are. Who and what you think you are. You're not a thought. The identity, the ego, is dreamt up from consciousness and thought. It is a consequence of the three principles. Manipulation is a consequence of the three principles. So from a three principles perspective, the three principles don't hold a perspective other than they are pure love. And pure love doesn't judge anything. Trust me. Pure love doesn't judge anything. Anybody who has the experience of awakening realizes unconditional love, and it doesn't judge you for what you've done in the past. There's nobody judging. There's only ourselves judging. They realize unconditional love. That is at the core of everyone. That's the unified field. Unifying force is love. It unifies. Does love? Fear separates. Manipulative people are people who are living in a very dualistic world. They feel very, very isolated in this world. That's why they're trying to form a world that they feel safe in, and by doing so, they try to get people to come on board and join them in their world. Please. The people ultimately we should send our most love to. Marina, does that remotely answer your question? I've got no idea. Thank you, beautiful. Jen. Jen.
Hiya, sorry. Lucy, I just poured a little cup of water on the floor as I was trying to unmute. No, I was just going to say, I think what I've been so grateful for is, I think coming across the principles when I did, I started kind of, I don't know, I think you start to see things in people quite differently. And I've noticed when someone was trying to manipulate me when I wouldn't have necessarily noticed it before. And not in a judgy way, but I kind of think I found my voice more, and I was able to stand up for myself more when I needed to. It's almost like you sort of almost see the games that people play, and you're kind of a bit more of an observer of it. And I think you kind of get eyes for it, and I've just been really grateful for that. And I think I've grown in compassion, because I think, wow, when I get upset, when I get insecure, I behave in ways that I'm not proud of. And just recently I had a conversation with a friend who was saying that her and her partner had they had an instant where she sort of got in a mood. Oh, do you want to take this? Got in a mood, and instead of saying what the problem was, she just walked off and then didn't say anything and said it was fine. And then a couple of weeks later, the partner asked, "Can I ask you what was wrong?" And she told them, and they said, "Well, it really felt quite passive aggressive, the way that you just wouldn't tell me what I'd done, and I had no idea." And it was a weird moment for me, because I realized, wow, that's kind of how I've dealt with things in the past. I've got in a mood and I haven't known how to speak about it. And but it's like, you don't know until you know. And I think you've become a lot more, you've become a lot more able to kind of recognize.
Yeah, I'll just watch Lucy with you.
She's just poured something.
I'm just going to mute Jen, and she's coming through.
Covered in yogurt and stuff. No, I was just saying, I think you start to see how we live out of unconscious belief, and we behave in ways that we're not proud of. And it's the same thing going on within us that happens within other people. And I think I've grown in compassion more and more, thank you, more and more, because I see that it's not, I don't do it on purpose. I don't deliberately lose sight of this and get insecure, or deliberately lose sight of this and be judgmental. And I think the more that we see that for ourselves and we see it in other people, we just grow in love and compassion. And I think that's what the world needs more of. I don't think we get more and more judgmental with this conversation. There's definitely a direction towards love, and love really is the ultimate unity, oneness. And I think you see when we get further into the illusion, when we go into fear and judgment and all of those things. And I think I've loved just recognizing I'm a human being, and I kind of thought I came across something and I knew something 18 years ago. And now I kind of laugh because I'm like, I don't even know what it is I think I know. But there's a deeper feeling within me of okayness and acceptance and joy and love. And that keeps growing. And I know we've spoken a bit about it, but what Annette brought up at the beginning, I just think I've been so incredibly grateful to the Three Principles community. But I know that it's full of people, human beings, who listen to Sid or listen to others sharing, and we can't help but create ideas around this understanding, and then we share from that. And when I look back at some of my old videos, I think, wow, like I see it so differently now. But the space I was sharing from was I was amazed at what I felt like I'd been seeing, which is why it goes beyond the words. It's in that deeper feeling. And the content of it changes, but the truth doesn't. And I feel like the feeling is when we touch that, we kind of know that that's true. And then we create all this stuff on top of it. But I think I've gone on a bit of a tangent, but it was just coming back to that. We really do get more discerning. And I think I felt at different times in my life really powerless and victimized. And I felt like I couldn't say no to people. And then I've kind of come across this, and I've found my voice and been more able to be firm and more able to put in boundaries when I've needed to. And, you know, initially I kind of thought when you saw this, you just see love and light and nothing can affect you. Well, I'm a human being, and sometimes I feel affected. But deep down, I know that it's impossible. And when you know something's impossible, you don't give as much attention. And that's the freedom, I think, that comes from this. And you will keep learning from your experiences. You'll keep learning from yourself. And you find your own word, your own language. Like the only time I got to meet Sydney Banks was on a 3-day conference that he held in London. And on day 2, I just had my mind, I don't even know what he was talking about, but I had my mind blown, and I was like, wow, he's pointing to the ultimate answer. He's pointing to the truth. And I felt like it answered everything. And then over the next kind of day and a half, there was more questions. And I was thinking, like, he's already told us. And then somebody asked, but how would you talk to somebody who's going through trauma? And he said, I'll say it again. You see this for yourself. And then when you show up with people, you know what to do. See this for yourself first. And then when you show up in the world, you show up different. Like, it was so simple. And I can see how it's easily complicated, but it's like, this is for us first. See this for ourselves. And you start noticing change in your life. It's that ripple effect. It's that kind of, you are the lighthouse. And I think you become an example of what's possible for a human being. And, you know, Sid often spoke about life as a contact sport. Stuff's going to happen. People are going to be out of order. People are going to do things we don't like. We might be out of order. We might do things we don't like. But the more you can see the past no longer exists, you become present again. Like, I've learned to be able to apologize. I used to find that incredibly difficult. I prefer to have my dig my heels in and not admit that I was wrong. Whereas now I can be like, no, I was wrong. I'm sorry. And I feel like all of those things have been byproducts of understanding and noticing and exploring these principles. And I'm so grateful to have been around them. And I don't know, I felt sad recently when I've seen different posts kind of being derogatory, and there's like whole other things going on and posts about, it's been bonkers to watch. And then I thought, the principles don't need defending. Life doesn't need defending, the truth of it. But I think I'm being called now by a 19-month-old baby. So but thank you for listening, and we'll swap.
Yeah. I think that's about break time anyway, isn't it? I think that's what is this working? I hope it's working. Lal Lucy's going mental. Now she's going mental for me now. All right, how we're doing for time. Probably got very time for a quick question if somebody wants to ask a question or anything. When we come back after, we're going to come back. So right now in the UK, we're coming up to 6 o'clock. And we're going to come back at 7:30. So we're going to have an hour and a half off. Have some time off. We're going to get some tea and stuff and settle Lucia down. So we're off for an hour and a half. And then when we come back, we'd like just questions and observations, reflections. We'll do that till for about half an hour, and then we've got Dickon from 8 till 9:30. So but if anybody's got any questions just before we go, we've probably got time for a quick question. Unless we just want to knock it on the head now and come back in an hour and a half. Annette's knocking, Annette's nodding. Let's do that then. All right. So yeah, hour and a half, 6 o'clock UK people. Now come back at 7:30. Abroad people. I don't know. I think it's still an hour and a half wherever we are on the planet. I always forget that bit. Right. Right. Loads of love, everyone, and thank you so much for this morning, whatever the heck it is. It's first half. Loads of love.